Join the movement. Go all electric with Pure Electric.
Hello. Thank you for your interest in our house. I assume that you've looked at the house profile on the Sustainable House Day website, so I shall only offer a kind of commentary on some of the less standard features rather than repeating all that data. You can, of course, ask me about the rest. The first consideration for sustainability must be the site, I suppose. Our home is in a rural part of Nillumbik on a hillside block of 8 hectares. We inherited a building platform serviced with electricity and water tanks at the highest part of the block, 310 metres above sea level. As a result, challenge number one, apart from access, was the wind, which is usually present and sometimes ferocious. A sensible solution might have been a hollow square design to create an entirely sheltered courtyard internally, but the site did not allow that. So we rely on trees and hedges in the northern courtyard to shelter us, trading off somewhat against the fire risk. The brief to Ross Henry, our friend and architect, was for a simple cottage of 2 bedrooms and an office. And here's the floor plan. The second bathroom is called a study in the plan for some reason, but it's actually a bedroom. As you can see, there are magnificent views right round from the south, through west and into the north. Neither we nor the architect could entirely resist the western views, although with hindsight we would say that the house has excessive glazing. Challenge number 2, therefore, is glare and heat gain for 4 or more months of the year. Because of the views, we resisted tinted glazing. Double glazing, which we do have throughout, is not terribly effective against radiant heat, although it's great in winter. So we've adopted 5 mitigations. Deep pergolas, external sliding screens on the western and eastern sides, heavy insulation of the western and northern external walls, a ceiling fan on the western side of the house, and a split system reverse cycle aircon for the few occasions each year when a run of hot days becomes insufferable. We don't use it for heating at all. The pergolas are probably worth some mention. Their depth is set so that no direct sun reaches the windows until 5 p.m. or later in the summer. The screening is by pressed proprietary aluminium sheets. And you can see more detail in this second slide. The angle in the pressed slots is set so that summer sun is excluded, but for the rest of the year one gets quite attractive dappled light. The external sliding screens are a bespoke arrangement using laser perforated galvanized steel sheets. These can be slid away for 3 seasons of the year, or in the mornings anytime. But the great thing is that in summer one can see through them, as you see here in this second slide. The principle is similar to the perforated advertising that one has on trams and trains. The screens are supposed to exclude 75% of the heat. I don't think they're as effective as that, but they're pretty good. The other measures, insulation, fan, air conditioning, speak for themselves, I think. I don't feel too bad about the aircon because our solar panels run it on the relevant days. Both for practicality and as a massive heatsink, we chose a polished concrete floor. It was made using a percentage of fly ash, is coloured, and has a pebbled fleck, as you can just see there. It's a waffle slab and has entirely lived up to expectations, both for ease of keeping reasonably clean and shiny and to stabilise temperatures inside. Visitors often comment on it approvingly. If you don't like our colour, there is a huge range of possibilities. In our neighbourhood, various friends have burnished concrete slabs rather than polished, and these seem to be just as good. For warmth in the cooler months, we rely on good insulation throughout and on 2 slow combustion wood stove. The insulation specs are in the house profile if you're interested. With the stoves, we took some care to specify clean burning units specifically designed for wood. The smaller of them which in truth we mostly light for cheerfulness when we have guests, is common enough. You've probably seen stoves like it. The larger is our splendid Essie stove. These are rather expensive but magnificent units. For 4 or more months of the year, it does our cooking, heats the hot water and warms the western half of the house. We don't heat the eastern side where the bedrooms, bathroom, toilet, etc. are. We have copious wood on the property, but the Essie only burns maybe eight logs a day. Having mentioned hot water, I'll point out our arrangement of solar panels, which do the job whenever there's sunshine. The panels are on the ground, since there's no difficulty in sighting them, and in this way the water circulation is entirely by thermosiphon with no pump or need for electricity. In the warmer part of the year, they're entirely adequate. There is an electric booster, but we only switch it on maybe 10 days a year when there's been a prolonged cloudy spell. We built 11 years ago, nearly 12 now, immediately after the bushfires which ravaged our property. At that stage, the bowel system had not been devised, so we had to rely on our own common sense and the advice of the architect and the engineer. Some measures, like this slide that's been up for a minute, of gravel around the house and our choice of plants are standard enough. Similarly, I think the fire pump in its own enclosure, the hose points around the house, around its periphery, and the copious tankage. However, you might be interested in 3 less ordinary measures: the roof design, the window shutters, and the external cladding. The roof has a butterfly design, and I'm sorry, I can't get up high enough to take a decent photo, so you'll have to make do with the plan. The 2 key things about it are that the sheeting is in continuous runs, so there are no joins where high winds can lift a sheet to let in embers and start a fire in the roof cavity. The second thing is that the entire roof drains to the southern end. This simplifies the task of keeping gutters clean. I mentioned earlier the sliding screens on the west and east. These double up their function by protecting that glazing from ember attack. For the other glazed areas, other windows, glazed doors and so on, we have detachable steel shutters, which can be affixed quite quickly. I'm not entirely satisfied with them. They're rather heavy and the fittings holding them on seem to me a bit flimsy, but the principle's a good one. We've moved to a lighter version of shutter, which we believe will be just as effective, and you can see it here. In effect then, our fire plan allows us to lock down the house in about 10 minutes and leave with a good chance that the house will survive. The external cladding and the window frames and so on caused us some thought. We didn't want galvanized steel cladding, nor steel window and door frames, although undoubtedly these give magnificent performance and some of our neighbours use them. Rammed earth was going to be expensive, and we'd observed that our next door neighbour's house of rammed earth did not withstand the bushfires. We didn't warm to brick, and we couldn't afford some of the other alternatives. So in the end, we've got a proprietary treated timber sheeting, which is specified to char but not burn. The door and window framing, and there's a bit of a close-up, is a hardwood which performs similarly. That seemed to us acceptable since our experience in 2009 was that the fire front was very intense but passed very quickly. There are lots of other things I could tell you about. Why we chose sustainable plywood rather than plaster in several areas inside. Our experience with low or emission, nil emission paints. Our solar electricity installation and what we plan there, because our total daily usage is only about 3 kilowatt hours. I could tell you about our wicking veggie garden and why it's where it is, or why the orchard is where it is, why the little vineyard is where it is, and the rather torturous process we had to go through to get decent phone and internet services. Similarly, there are things that we would do differently now, but it's a very comfortable, cheerful little house and reasonably sustainable. Next stop, an electric car, I suppose. But you can ask about these things if you like.